Of speed reading, Man in the Universe, the progressive revelation of a great, a transcendent, and luminous reality with the multitudinous relativities of this world and that we see, and those other worlds that we do not see as means and material, condition and feel. This word seemed then to be the meaning of the universe. So, its meaning and game it has and is neither a purposeless illusion nor a fortuitous accident. For the same reasoning which leads us to conclude that in the world existence is not a deceptive trick of mind justifies equally that in the certainty that it is no blindly and helplessly self-existent mass of separate phenomenal existences clinging together and struggling together as best as they can in their orbit through eternity. No tremendous self-creation and self-impulsion of an ignorant force without any secret intelligence within ever of its starting point and its goal and guiding its process and its motion, and existence only self-aware and therefore entirely master of itself, possesses the phenomenal being in which it is involved, realizes itself in form, unfolds itself in the individual. That luminous emergence is the dawn which the Aryan for this worship. Its fulfilled perfection is that highest step of the world pervading Vishnu which they beheld as if an eye of the vision extended in the purest heavens of the mind. For it exists already as an all revealing and all guiding truth of things which watches over the world and attracts mortal man first without the knowledge of the conscious mind but the general mode of nature, but at last consciously by progressive awakening and self-enlightenment to its divine ascension. The ascent to the divine. Life is the human journey, the work of works, the acceptable sacrifice. This alone is man's real business in the world, and the justification of his existence, without which he would be only an insect crawling among other ephemeral insects on a speck of surface man and water, or what has managed to form itself amid the appalling immensities of the physical universe. This truth of things that has to emerge out of the phenomenal world's contradiction is declared to be an infinite bliss and self-conscious existence, the same everywhere, in all things, in all times and beyond time, and aware of itself behind all this phenomena by whose intense vibration of activity or by whose largest totality it can never be entirely expressed or in any way limited. For it is self-existent and does not depend for its being upon its manifestation. They represent it but do not exist it, point to it but do not reveal it. It is revealed only to itself within as their forms. The conscious existence involved in the form comes as it evolves. To know itself by intuition, by self-vision, by self-experience, it becomes itself in the world. By knowing itself, it knows itself by becoming itself, thus possessed of itself unworldly. It imparts also to its forms and modes the conscious delight of such and this becoming of the infinite bliss existence consciousness in mind and life and body for independent of them, it exists eternally. In the transfiguration intended and the utility of individual existence. Through the individual, it manifests in relation, even as of itself, it exists in identity. The unknowable, knowing itself as Satchidananda, is the one supreme affirmation of Vedanta. It contains all the others on it as on it. They depend. This is the one veritable experience that remains when all appearances have been accounted for negatively by the elimination of the shapes and coverings, or positively by the reduction of their names and forms to the constant truth that they contain for fulfillment of life or for transcendence of life, and whether purity, calm, and freedom in the spirit be our aim or poisons, joy and perfection. Satchidananda is the unknown, omnipresent, indispensable term for which the human consciousness, whether in knowledge and sentiment or in suppression and action, is eternally seeking. The universal and individual are the two essential appearances into which the unknowable descends and through which it has to be approached. For other intermediate collectivities are born only of their interaction. This descent of the supreme reality is in its nature is self-concealing, and in the descent there are successive levels in the concealing successive ways. Necessarily, the revelation takes the form of an ascent, and necessarily also the ascent and the revelation are both progressive. For each successive level in the descent of the divine is to man a stage in ascension. Each veil that hides the unknown God becomes for the God lover and God seeker an instrument of his unveiling. Out of the rhythmic slumber of material nature, unconscious of the soul and the idea that maintain the ordered activities of our energy, even as our dumb and mighty material trance, the world struggles into the more quick, varied, and disordered rhythm of the law of life. Laboring on the verges of self-consciousness, out of life it struggles upward into mind, in which the unit becomes aware to itself and its will, and in that awakening, the universe gains the leverage it required for its supreme work. It gains self-conscious individuality, but mind takes up the work to continue, not to compete. It is a laborer of acute but limited intelligence who takes the confused material offered by life and having improved, adapted, varied, classified according to its power, hands them over to the supreme artist of our divine manhood. That artist of and that artist dwells in supermind. For supermind is superman. Therefore, our world has yet to climb beyond mind to a higher principle, a higher state, a higher dynamics, in which universe and individual become aware of and possess that which they both are, and therefore stand explained to each other in harmony with each other, unified. The disorder of mind sees to by discerning the secret of a more perfect order than the physical matter below life and mind, contains in itself the balance between a perfect poise of tranquility and action of an immeasurable energy, but does not possess that which it contains. Its peace wears the dull mask of an obscure inertia, a sleep of unconsciousness, or rather of a drugged and imprisoned consciousness, driven by a force which is its real self, but whose sense it cannot yet seize nor share. It has not the awakened joy of its own harmonious energies. Life and mind awaken to the sense of this want in the form of a striving and seeking ignorance, and a troubled and baffled desire, which are the first steps towards self-knowledge and self-fulfill. But where then is the kingdom of their self-fulfilling? It comes to them by the exceeding of themselves, beyond life and mind. We recover consciously in its divine truth, that which the balance of material nature grossly represented, a tranquility which is neither inertia nor a sealed trance of consciousness, but the concentration of an absolute force and an absolute self-awareness, and an action of immeasurable energy which is at the same time an outthrilling of ineffable bliss, because it's every act in the expression not of a want and an ignorance training, but of an absolute peace and self mastery. In that arraignment, our ignorance realizes the light of which it was a darkened or a partial reflection. Our desires cease in the plenitude and fulfillment towards which, even in their most brute material forms, they are and they are an obscure and fallen aspiration. The universe and to individual are necessary to each other.